here with one of my good friends from high school, a special guest, and his name is Paul Simon. Paul, man, please come on the air and just tell us who you are and what you do, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me, man. It's good to be here. So, like Martinez said, my name is Paul. I'm a physical therapist by trade, stock investor by situation. So, um, I've been investing for about a decade now, and I've been a therapist going on 6 years. And so, for me, man, I just realized that the way life is, if you want what you want to achieve, man, you have to do a little bit more than just your 9 to 5 job.
Absolutely. I agree with that, man. I agree with that 100%. And I remember some years back, I remember when I think it might have been 2016. Me, you, and Nick, we met up, we ate at Zaxby's, and you had just bought a brand new car.
Yep.
And you told us, you were like, man, I just bought this brand new car off of my stock market investment. And we were kind of like, what? And I wish at that time, like, I wish I had paid more attention. I wish I had been like, man, Paul, can you put me on to the stock market?
Man.
but I don't know, man. It was like it kind of went over my head. And even though I knew you were telling the truth, for some reason, I was like, is this really real? Like, can I really get in the stock market and
Mhm.
learn how to invest? So, man, when back at that time, when you had your first big hit and you were able to purchase a car, how did that feel, man?
Oh, man, it's actually a funny story. So, 2016, I was just brand new in grad school, right?
Right,
And I was driving a little what was it? It was a Nissan, some sort of old Nissan, right? No, I was driving
right,
a '08
right.
Nissan. So my transmission went out, and I was looking crazy. I was, and what am I about to do? But I had just started investing. I had bought my very first stock was Nike
Right,
around $50, and I had bought Apple stock. So I was up $1,000 on Apple,
right,
right? And I was hyped. But then the transmission went out, so I was like, "Ooh!" So I pulled out the 1,000, and
right,
it got me the down payment on the Dodge Dart I was driving.
right.
Yeah,
That's what's up, man. That's what's up. I remember that like it was yesterday, man. Something I would never forget. And again, like I said at that time, even though I believed you, I don't know why I didn't get into it, man. And so, you know, for those out there listening, obviously we are talking about investing right now. And our topic for the episode is investing with Paul Simon. Now, I see Paul as an expert. He might tell you he's not. When you watch his videos, he always says, this is not financial advice. I'm just some random guy on YouTube. But honestly, man, he's an expert to me. And so, from your perspective, man, why do so many people fear learning about the stock market? And why do so many people hold back when there's opportunities right there for us?
man. I just think that's a great question. I think that a lot of people think it's just reserved for rich people.
Yeah,
That's kind of what took me a couple more years to even get into it, because my dad back in 2014, he don't invest or anything, but he would always watch CNBC, the financial channel. He would
right.
always tell me, "Man, son, you can learn this. You can learn this." And I blew him off. I was like, "Nah, man, that's for rich people, man. I can't do that. That's not for me. That's not for people that look like us.
Right,
That's not for us." But then when I went to grad school, in the period between undergrad and grad school, I had a semester off. And so I was working a couple jobs, but also I was like, let me find some challenge myself. So that's when my dad came to me one more time. He's like, "Son, I think you really can make some shape." And I was like, "All right, Pops, I hear you. I hear you." So I picked up my first book, and man, it's been history ever since.
for
But
sure,
I think that's
for
that's
sure.
the real reason, man. I think people just are intimidated by it because it is. It's a different language, but once you learn the language, it's easy.
Yeah, definitely, man. I agree with that. I agree with that. So it sounds like when your dad was coming to you, it sounds like you were in your own way, and then he kept coming, and you finally got out of your way. So is it the fact that your dad kept coming, or did you really know, even though you were intimidated by it, did you really believe like I really can do this? There really is something to this.
Yeah, I will say this, man. It's just like anything else, man. And for me and where I'm at, faith has been very important. And like I always look at things we go through in life, it's us that move. We move farther away from God. God stay where He at.
That's
You know
good.
what I'm saying?
That's
God
good.
stay where He at. My dad, I would walk by the living room. He'd be in the same spot on the couch. You know what I'm saying? He never
Right.
moved. He never
Right.
moved. Every time we had
Right.
a conversation, he was in the same spot, man.
Right.
And I eventually just had to listen.
That's good, man.
Listen, but to answer your question though, I'm the type of person. I feel like if I put my hands on it, it's gonna turn into gold. That, like that, but I have to believe it first. I have to be intentional about it. If I'm intentional, I feel like I got it. I can achieve anything.
For sure. I'm with you on that, man. And man, that was a lot. That was good. A lot to unpack with that. First off, you're right, man. God doesn't change. He stays the same. He doesn't move further from us. We
Yeah,
move further from him. And man, that's deep. That's powerful. And then the second thing, you said your dad was always in the same spot. And then the third thing you said, you believe if you touch it, it's gonna turn into gold. So, man, that's confidence to me. You know what
yeah,
I'm saying? And we've been talking for those out there watching this video. Like I said, like we said, we did go to school together, and over the last year, man, we pretty much reconnected, if you will,
yeah.
and just started talking more and more about investing in different things. And we really been keeping each other sharp, man. I would say because I've been learning a lot from Paul, and then when we get a chance to sit down, we talk about so many things, man. We talk
Oh yeah,
about life, but I like the fact that you said not only did you say God doesn't move, we move away from him. That's the most important thing. But then the second thing that really caught my attention, you said, if I touch it, I believe it's gonna turn into gold. That's confidence, man. That's believing in yourself. And that's so important to me because when I show up anywhere to motivate people or to provide an inspirational speech, I want people to have the same type of confidence that I have, man. Sometimes people look at us and they'll say, "Oh, Paul is cocky,
yeah.
Martinez is arrogant." And we talked about this too. Being arrogant, being humble, and being confident is three different things.
It
And
is.
like Paul said, there are three different words for different reasons, right?
Yeah,
But we should have that type of confidence in ourselves, man. And so I like that you said that.
no doubt, no doubt.
For sure, man. So let's see. I have several questions, man. I know you have several questions as well. And, before I continue to just load you with questions that I have, is there anything particular that you want to ask me to help bring out anything you feel like our listeners or our viewers might be interested in knowing about me?
Yeah, man. Because you new to my channel as well, so I want to know, and I want you to tell all the viewers who you are.
Okay, that's good. That's
Yeah,
good. So I am Martinez Shaver. A lot of people, as far as family and friends, they may know me as Cool Guy because after we got out of high school, I really got into poetry. And when I started doing spoken word and open mic for years, I went by Cool Guy. Well, over the last 2 to 3 years, I've transitioned more into motivational speaking or inspirational speaking, if you will. And so I've just simply started going by my first and last name, which is Martinez Shaver. I'm an author, I podcast, I'm a soldier, I'm married, I have a family. And honestly, man, there's so much more I could say about who I am. But I feel like the more we talk and go throughout this recording, this episode, I think you all will get that. But that's who I am, and that's what I do. And I'm glad to be here as well.
yeah, man. Thank you for your service, first off.
Thank you. Thank you.
And not everybody can do it.
It it's not
Appreciate
always easy, man.
it. Yeah,
Sometimes I want to give up. Sometimes I want to hang those boots up, but it's been a blessing, man. I've learned a lot about myself being in the military. I've learned a lot about others. I've met some great people from all around the world, man. And like the Bible says, as far as there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. Not to say that I don't have great brothers, because I
Right.
do, but I've met some people, man, who started out as friends and now they are family. I wouldn't change on them. They wouldn't change on me. So the military really has been a blessing, man.
Yeah, man. Nice, nice. I do got another question for you, man.
Okay, absolutely.
So, what motivated you to go into kind of poetry and then kind of transition into motivational speaking? What was that inspiration for you?
Right. So honestly, I don't know if you remember this or not, but do you remember Miss Reed
Yeah, yeah,
from eighth? Okay, it was eighth grade, and we we were in class one day, and she came in and she was like, "Guys, we're gonna write poetry today." And you know how bubbly she was. She was always excited. "Guys, we're gonna write poetry today." And she came up to me, she gave me some paper, and she was like, "Martinez, we're gonna write some poetry today. I think you'll be great at this." And I said, "Miss Reed, I don't want to do that." She was like, "What? Why not?" I said, "That's for girls, Miss Reed. I don't want to write poetry." And she was like, "No, dude, Tupac wrote poetry." And I was like, "Come on, Miss Reed, you think I'm stupid? Tupac was a rapper."
it's a
But
capping.
yeah, I thought she was capping, but but she was right though. Tupac actually was a poet as well. He was a poet first, actually, and she gave us some papers with some of his writing on it. And when I read those first few poems that he wrote, I literally felt like he was talking about my life, man. And at
Yeah,
that moment, I was like, "Man, I can write this," and I started writing it. But you know me, I thought I was too cool for school, man. So I didn't want people to know that I really liked it. So I
yeah,
always played like, "Oh, I'm just doing this because the teacher said so." But really, man, outside of school, I was angry. I had a lot of anger issues, and poetry became like therapy for me. And I started writing more and more. And before I knew it, my brother would find things and he would say, "Man, little bro, you good at this." But I wouldn't believe him. I'd be like, "Man, you my brother. Would you tell me if I wasn't good?" And then I started sending it to one of my cousins. And the more I shared it with people, the more my confidence grew in the ability to write poetry. And then I realized, like, man, I really can inspire people with this. I really can help people. And so that's what made me start writing. And after years of doing spoken word and sharing my poetry and publishing a book and working on another book, I always felt like I could do more.
yeah,
Every time I did spoken word and I would be on the stage for 5 minutes, I always felt like I could do more, man. And honestly, I got tired of being in the spoken word environment, because oftentimes the majority of the places I would go, it was like a club environment. There's
yeah,
bars, there's alcohol, there's smoking. And you know what comes with that? People just coming in looking for a hookup, and that's not what I was looking for. And even though I was just trying to do something positive and do what I love, I realized there's more I can do, and maybe it's time for me to come out of this place. So I started looking more into motivational speakers that we listen to, like Eric Thomas, Inky Johnson. I started looking into them, and I started paying attention to where they spoke, how they spoke, what type of people they hung around, and I just started to go for it, man.
and that's awesome. And it's funny you say that because my confidence, a lot of that, obviously still stems from what my parents instilled in me, but at the same time, I'm still human, right?
Right,
So
right.
I listen to those same motivational speakers, man. Les Brown, Jim Rohn, all that got me through grad school, man.
Absolutely. That's deep, man. And they got me through, especially my first few years in the military. I joined in 2016. Around the same time you were in grad school, matter of fact.
Yep.
That's when I joined the military. I left my job at Knopf. I joined the military, and it was a challenge, man. Like, so many things people don't understand. When you, whether you're joining the military or going to grad school, something has to change.
Hmm.
You can't continue to do the same things that you were doing before you got in that environment. Sometimes you can't even continue to hang with the same people, because
Yeah.
people are going one way and you're trying to go another way. So it was tough, man. And when I when I started to deal with certain things like injuries, financial stress, so many things. That's when I really started listening to those motivational speakers, man,
Yeah.
because oftentimes I was alone. And even though when I came to work, it seemed like I was okay, I really wasn't okay, man. But I felt like I couldn't allow the world to see me cry, man. You know how it is.
Yeah.
We men, but even when we were boys, we felt like, man, I can't. They gonna call me weak if they see me cry.
Hmm.
You know, they gonna call me this. They gonna call me that. And I started listening to those motivational speakers, and it really changed my life, man,
Yeah. No
for
doubt.
sure. But
Mhm.
now I have a question for you as a spin off that.
Yeah.
It's important that we listen to people and things that can motivate us, right? But I
Hmm.
also believe, and I think you agree because I know we both are Kobe Bryant fans. Rest in peace
Yeah.
to Kobe Bryant. But we talked about the mama mentality a few days ago. When I think about Kobe, I feel like Kobe was the type of person that he can motivate himself. He can inspire himself. He can encourage himself. So when you are not listening to others, what are some of the things that you say to yourself to keep yourself going?
Oh man. And it's crazy you say that because it's like, even I would consider myself a successful, investor, trader,
Absolutely.
you want to say, health professional, but there's still days I struggle with imposter syndrome. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
Like dang, like, I can open up the accounts and I can see these figures, but am I still justified and certified to be sharing this information with other people?
Right.
You know, even though like I've, been a supervisor as a therapist now, it's like, dang, do I still have the authority to lead and direct people that been doing this, 10, 20, 30 years, you know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Um, but I also just have to, I just tell myself, man, and I think when, especially when you're a family man, because I'm married, have a daughter,
Right.
and when you look at it, and I look at those two, man, I'm just like, I got to do it for them. Like
Okay.
no matter what the situation is, that's how I keep going,
For
man.
sure.
Got to
That's
do it.
deep.
Got
That's
people
deep.
counting on me.
Absolutely. That's deep, man. I like that. You know, I think for parents, as we both are, and as husbands as we both are, I think it's always easy to, not necessarily easy, but when we want to give up, when we think about them, we know we have to keep going.
Right.
Have you ever had a time before you had a wife, before you had a child, when you felt like I need something to keep me going? Have you ever had a time like that? And what was your motivation then before you had a family for yourself?
Yeah, man. I can't remember what motivational speaker it was, man. 'Cause I was just it might have been Eric Thomas. I think it was Eric Thomas actually. Cause that's what kind of drove me to the motivational speaker. Just grad school was probably the most challenging time of my life. You know what I
Right,
mean? Uh, and it wasn't the subject matter itself. It was more the amount of work and like the time crunch, right? And I think Eric Thomas had said, I think he just said that, the gift that you have, somebody else is waiting for it,
right.
you know. And that to me just made me keep going. It just made me
That's
keep
deep.
going because like, okay, the things I'm trying to do, with my mind, with my hands as a therapist, like there's people that I can help. And now hindsight being 2020 and like I've been a therapist going on 6 years, man, I've helped so many kids get in school.
Right,
I've been a supervisor and just helped people's day just be better.
right.
All the patients that I've helped get better and reach their functional goals. Uh, even on YouTube now, like the hundreds of people that I'm helping there.
Right, right.
So just you have to find something to keep you going.
That's deep, man. That's good. That's good. I like it, man. I like it. Like I said earlier, man, I know we both have questions, so I don't want to just continue to hammer you because I got so
Yeah,
many questions for you, man. But I want to put it back on you and give you a chance to go back in your bag and pull some of your questions out too, man.
yeah, man. So So tell me this, what's been some of your biggest challenges so far in your journey?
Well, I talked about the challenge of joining the military and how I had to change. Another challenge was, honestly, man, this is a tough one, but I want to speak about it. So I did say I'm married, right? And I am. Been married for a year now. But what many people may not know is that I was married once before. I got divorced. And that was earlier on in my career. I had been in the military for about a year or so when I first got married. And I was trying to do everything I felt like a man should do, trying to do everything I felt like a father should do, but the relationship didn't work out. And I don't regret where I'm at now. I love my wife. I would not trade this woman in the world. But being a young man going through a divorce, being in the military far away from my home, and to see my child every day, to all of a sudden she's not there anymore, man, that was tough, man. That was one of the toughest things I ever dealt with in my life. And I remember I would wake up in the morning crying. I
Oh,
would wake up in the morning, tears running down my face. But by the time I showed up to my PT formation, nobody knew.
yeah,
I'm running with the best of them. Anything that a soldier had to do out there in the field, man, I was doing it to the best of my ability. But it's because I was literally hungry, man, for more. Like I wanted my family, I wanted my daughter, I wanted to succeed as a father, I wanted to succeed as a husband, but I was failing as a husband. You know that relationship didn't work out.
yeah,
And on top of that, when we separated, I started to struggle financially. And so it was like, okay, I'm going through a divorce. I don't see my child every day. Now I'm struggling financially. I ate beans, chicken, and rice for 3 months straight, Paul.
yeah,
3 months straight. Now I could have bought something else, right? But
yeah.
at the time, I was trying to get the best bang for my buck, and
I
that's all
feel
I knew how to do: chicken, beans, and rice and water. I laugh about it now, man, but that was one of the toughest times in my life, man. And then the second thing I would say, I've dealt with some injuries, man.
yeah,
And I shared this with you, about a little over 2 years ago now. I woke up one morning, I got out of the bed, and everything down the left side of my body was numb. And at 28 years old, I had just came off a strong year, man. I had just came off a few performances in competitions, and people were telling me like, "Man, you in special forces shape." I mean, these were cats who they had multiple deployments, they had all kind of awards. Some of these people had 15, 20 years of service, and they looking at me, a little old small dude from Chambers County, telling me, "Man, you in special forces shape." I felt like I was invincible almost, man.
yeah,
And when I got up out of that bed that morning and I fell to the floor, once again I cried, man, because I was like, this can't be the way I go out, man. Not
yeah,
not your boy, you know what I'm saying? So those were two of the toughest things, man, that I've dealt with since being in the military.
yeah, man. Hey, look, hey, you can't have a testimony without a test. I tell you that.
That's true.
You know, and yeah, I got one more for you, man.
Okay, absolutely.
You know, being where you are now, if you had a chance to talk to your younger self, what would you tell your younger self?
Oh man. I would tell my younger self a couple of things. The first thing I would say is be patient, and I say that because even now, man, I struggle with I would juggle so many things at one time
Hmm.
because I want to succeed so bad. And I feel just like you said, I feel like I'm successful already. But I'm a person who cannot be stagnant. I'm always looking forward to the next goal. I feel like I got to do it all right now. And if I could tell my younger self something, the first thing I would be able to tell that young man is be patient. And honestly, if I could tell myself one more thing, this would definitely apply to my younger self. It doesn't apply to me now because I'm happily married and I'm faithful. But if
Right.
I could tell my younger self, I would say, stop chasing all of those other women out there, man.
Hmm.
Stop running around just trying to hook up with women because this may sound crazy, man, but there was a time in my life when I would say man, I give this thing away like free popcorn. Just immature, man. And I tell these young guys now, I say, man, stop wasting your time with that. Stop wasting your time running around with different women, because at the end of the day, it leads to nothing but destruction. It's gonna lead to you having lots of kids out there that are not in the home with you. It's gonna lead to you having essentially creating broken homes. It's gonna lead to you breaking hearts. And then when your heart get broke, you won't know how to deal with that. So many things with that, man. But those are definitely the two things I would tell my younger self.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's cool, man. Because I would definitely say, like, what you just said, like, it relates with everything, like, just life, trading. Because, like, discipline, like, what you spoke about is discipline, man.
That's true.
And, like, my thing right now is stock trading, right? And before you can even be profitable in a brokerage account, like, you have to have that discipline outside of that first, in your
Right.
faith, family, fitness. Like, you have to show up there first. And then
Right.
once you get success there, then all that carries over into all the investing stuff.
Right. Right. I noticed that I agree for one. I agree 100%. And I'm learning patience even with investing and even with trading. I'm learning patience, and I've had to take a step back because I realized I wanted it right now. I wanted it
Yeah.
right then. As soon as I placed that trade, I came back 5 minutes later. I'm like, am I up yet? Have I made some money yet?
Yeah.
But I realized, like, okay, Martinez, you need to take a step back. You need to be patient. But I noticed you said something. You said faith, family, and fitness. And oftentimes, I think when we list things out like that, I feel like we naturally kind of list those things out in like a prioritized way. So you said faith, family, and fitness. This is not to put you on the spot, but why didn't you say fitness, family, and faith? Or family, fitness, and faith? Why did you say faith, family, and fitness in that way?
Man, like, you have to, man. You have to, because, you know, we're both Christians, you
Right.
know, and we can't do anything without God. You
Absolutely.
can't, like, if you don't have God in your life, I tried it. It
Right.
don't work.
Right. Right.
It don't work,
Right. right.
you know. And then just prioritizing your family, because that is the motivational force that keep you going. But then you have to have the fitness, man. Because if you're sick, like, I always relate a lot of stuff back to finances, right?
Right. Right.
Being sick is expensive.
Right.
Like, you see what I'm saying? Like,
Absolutely.
whether it's uh having to be on medications, whether it's you freaking die, man. Like, funerals
Right.
are expensive.
Exactly.
You put a big financial burden on your family when you sick and stuff, man.
For sure.
But also too, it's like, you know, with the fitness part, you getting your mind right, like, you getting your body right, getting your mind right. That helps with your confidence, like. And then once it's like in sports, man.
Right. Right.
If you feel good, you play good.
That's right. That's right.
And that's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. You know that, man, it made me think of something. You heard that saying that says, if you look good, you feel good, and I
Yeah.
feel great. You ever heard somebody say that? And I say that sometimes, and people be like, "Man, shut up, Shaver. Get out of here, Shaver." But I be like, seriously, even when I feel bad, I'm not coming into the workplace and telling y'all that I feel bad,
Right.
because sometimes I feel like there are people out there who they want to see you down, and
Hmm.
and so I try not to give anybody that ammo. But I agree with that, man. I think that for me, whether you call it faith, fitness, or spiritual readiness, because that's one of the ways we refer to faith in the military. We call it spiritual readiness, and we have physical readiness, sleep readiness, nutritional readiness, spiritual readiness, and oftentimes people will ask, you know, what is which form of readiness do you feel is most important? A lot of people say nutritional because they say, oh, without food, you don't have any energy. And a
Yeah.
lot, a lot of them say sleep. Well, if you don't get enough sleep, you can't get up in the morning. And I say, that's a good answer. But for me, spiritual readiness is number one. And they
Yeah.
be like, why is that? And I be like, well, when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is pray. The first thing I do is show gratitude to the Most High.
Hmm.
That's God. For those out there who may not be familiar with somebody saying most high, I'm still talking about God. I just want to put that out there. But for me, that's what's most important because I know when I wake up in the morning and I pray and I show my thankfulness and gratitude, I read scriptures, I'm feeding my spirit. And then I get to the motivational speech. So I actually go spiritual readiness where I try to feed my spirit. And then I move into mental readiness when I'm really trying to sharpen my mind. And then I go into maybe a little bit of nutrition, but then I go to my physical, and then it all comes back to the nutritional piece. But faith, family, and fitness. I like the way you listed that, man.
Man, appreciate it. Appreciate it.
For sure, for sure. So, man, let me see. I know I have a few more questions in my bag. I know you probably have more questions as well. I think we're at our 30-minute mark. We don't necessarily have to stop recording right now. I just said that to kind of let both of us know where
Oh
we are in time because I'm not sure if you can see the timestamp, being that this is both of our first time recording in this online studio.
yeah.
So actually, man, I have at least one more question I would like to ask you, maybe two, and then if you have any other things that you would like to touch on before we end this session, and then eventually get back to it. Now, I have this question for you, right? But
Yeah.
it's actually an opportunity for me to highlight something that you might not even remember. So
Yeah.
I'm
Go
gonna
ahead.
ask you the question, and then we'll come back around.
All right.
What was one of your first impressions of me going back to when we first met, going back to middle school, whenever it was? What was one of your first impressions?
Yeah, man. Hey, I just thought you was a cool guy. So like,
Okay.
that what I'm saying? Like, it was so fitting that 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 was the name you went by a lot
For
of
sure.
times. You know what I mean? I
For
just thought
sure.
you was a cool guy, man.
For sure. Man, I appreciate that, man. A lot of people called me that, and they gave me the nickname Too Cool for School. But I ain't gonna lie, I did like it. But
Yeah,
the reason I asked that question, man, is because I wanted to take this moment to really highlight you. For one, just so y'all know, this man is really smart. Like going back to when I first met Paul, he was always in honor society. I mean, we both were, but he was a step ahead of me. Not that it was a competition or nothing,
yeah.
but Paul, man, he worked really hard in school, and I remember he was on honor society every single year, man. And the second thing, it was still one of my first impressions of him. We were in the eighth grade, and we were out on the field playing football. I don't know if he remembers this, but I do. I don't remember who threw the ball, but they threw the ball down the field in the end zone. And you know how I used to be in junior high. We out there playing 15 on 15,
Oh yeah.
barely any room to run.
Oh yeah.
But somebody threw the ball to the end zone, and it was probably 10 dudes in the end zone. And man, when I tell y'all, Paul, man, this man jumped up in the sky, caught the ball with one hand, and he jumped so high the whole upper half of his body was higher than everybody else in the air. I don't know if he remembers that, but I remember that, and I was really amazed, man. For real, I was amazed. He went on to play tight end. He was a great athlete as well, man. So that was one of my first. Those were my first two impressions of you, actually. And I just wanted to take that time to highlight you, man.
Man, I appreciate that, man. Oh yeah, I remember that because then after that, got moved to tight end, and
Yeah.
then junior senior got moved to receiver and,
Yep.
and running back.
Yep. Yep. That's good, man. I wish I had kept playing football, man. I wish I had stuck with it, but again, I talked about the anger that I was dealing with, and it was just so many things I was battling in my mind. Even though I love football, I gave up on myself. I gave up on it, and we talk about confidence. That was a time when I didn't really have that confidence in myself, man,
Yeah,
because I loved football so much, but it was a learning curve, man. Later on in my life, I started to believe in myself more. I started to encourage myself. And a lot of times when I go speak at schools, students will ask, Martinez, how did you become so confident? Honestly, I had to get tired of not being confident. When you get tired of something, you will make a change. I got tired of not believing in myself. I got tired of not being confident. And I decided to make a change and I started working on it.
yeah, man. It's funny you point out some of those things as far as about being confident, and and just tying into uh your impression of me.
For sure.
um Man, like confidence, man. Even being, I was one of those people, like, top of the class here in
Right, right.
the class, and undergrad, near the top of the class in grad school. But even with that, it's you still have doubts. You still have confidence issues,
For sure.
and you really just have to be grounded in your faith, man. Because as far as like, and I try to live life with no regrets, man. But like when I look back on my past life, I could have went to med school.
Right,
Like, you know what I mean? I could have
right,
been a
right,
physician. I still have my doctorate degree,
right.
physical therapist, but I could have been a physician, you know. But like I didn't. It just the confidence. It was just a
Yeah,
confidence thing.
yeah.
Even in that, and like, you talked about football. Same thing. Like, I wasn't getting recruited by the schools I wanted to get recruited. This D2 school came after me real hard, and I was like, nah, man, if I'm not going D1, I don't want to do it.
Right,
Then I get to Auburn, back when Gus Malzahn was the head coach.
right.
He called me up, asked me if I wanted to walk on, but I turned that down, man. 'Cause I'm like, it's a walk on, whatever,
Yeah.
so you live and you learn. You live and you learn.
You're right, man. I never knew that.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. I will say I'm not surprised, man, because you had the size, you had everything, man. You had the size, you had the academics, you had the speed, you had the strength. I saw it all for myself, man. And honestly, I never knew that. I never knew you struggled with that confidence piece even back then. But I guess it's hard to see it because people tell me the same thing. Man, Martinez, I never knew you wasn't confident back then. I
Oh, yeah.
wasn't though. Not in everything
Yeah.
because and if anybody tells you they've always been confident in everything, it's kept.
I
It
don't
it
believe it.
it,
I don't
it
believe
is kept.
it.
Nobody has always been confident at everything. And like Paul said, even now, even though we are confident, even though we are successful, there are still times when we have to ask ourselves, can I really do this? Am I really built for this? And have I studied enough for this test that I'm about to take? Am I qualified enough for this information that I'm trying to teach them? But I think that's good, man. I think that's something that continues to motivate us. And it reminds me, I got one more question for you, and then I want to, if you have any more questions, I definitely want to answer those before we go. And once we get offline, man, we'll chop it up and figure out what's next for us and when we're gonna
Yeah.
do this again because I'm thoroughly enjoying it.
Yeah. Yeah. Me
But
too.
for real, also, man, somebody asked me one time, Martinez, how do you not get the big head? With all the things you've accomplished in the military and the fact that you published 2 books, how do you not get the big head? And I said, well, I know where my help comes from.
Right.
And he said, what do you mean by that? I don't understand. I said, well, I can't do anything without God. Like you said, I can't do anything without the Most High. If He doesn't wake me up, I can't do it. If He doesn't give me the strength to do it, if He doesn't give me the skills and the abilities to do it, I can't do it. And I look at everything that I've achieved and I look at it as He put me in this position in order for me to be a light to somebody else.
Yeah.
So, how can I get the big head and act like I did it all by myself? I can't do it, you know?
That's a great answer. I mean,
Yeah, man, for
that's
sure.
what it is, though. That's exactly what it is.
For sure, for
When you
sure.
live your life by that, like that's the only way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, man, I my last question is actually a question that is one of your questions, but when I looked at it, I thought all of the questions were great, don't get me wrong, but this one stood out to me the most. And you asked, or you what you sent to me was, are there any particular scriptures that helps guide your life?
Yeah.
So I wanna ask you that, and then on the flip side, I'll answer it. And then if you have anything else, man, it's your world.
Yeah, man. I'm so bad of like quoting the verses exactly,
Right, right. It's
but
nah, it's all good, man.
there is a verse in the Bible, and I think it might be in Luke. I think it's in Luke, but essentially they're talking about uh, how you have to essentially, and I'm paraphrasing, definitely
Right,
paraphrasing.
right. I got you, bro. I
You got to
got
be able to manage the minimum before God bless you with more, right?
Amen.
You know, so it's like that plus there's also a Bible verse where Jesus had met a man, a rich man,
Right.
right? And he asked him, he was like, hey, obviously paraphrasing,
Right. Right. Right.
lay down your riches and follow me.
Right.
He had that rich man bugging out when he said
Right.
it.
For real. For real.
You
I
want me
gotta
to
give
give
up
you
all my money.
all of
all of it.
it? And the rich man was like, "No, I'm good, bro. I
For
don't
real,
like
yeah.
the life on the road,
For real.
But but then Jesus went back and said, talking to the disciples that it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle
Right.
than for a rich man to go and get into the kingdom of God,
Right. Right.
right? So with those two verses together, man, like that, it just keeps me humble and grounded.
Right. Right.
It's because God is saying that it's okay to have things,
Exactly.
but don't worship the things
Exactly.
because the ultimate goal is to get into the kingdom.
Exactly. Exactly. Nah, that's deep, man. And man, listen, I try to paraphrase and I try to quote scriptures. It's not easy, man. So I'm
Yeah,
not one of those people that trip when a person can't say, "Oh, this is Psalms 48 and
yeah,
12," and it says, I don't even be. I may get impressed when somebody says that, but what I'm really looking at is, are you really living that? It's one thing for us to be able to quote scripture, but are we really living by that? Are we really letting that guide us as you stated? And so for me, honestly, man, I'm cheating a little bit. I wrote my two down because
okay,
I wanted to try to really make sure I gave you the value when you brought that question up.
yeah,
And the first one, man, it comes from Timothy, First Timothy 3, chapter 3, 4 through 5. And I really just want to touch, I'll read the whole thing. He must manage his own family well, having children who respect and obey him. But then this is the part that really gets me. For if a man cannot manage his own household, how shall he take care of the called out assembly or the church?
mm,
And that is something that has been guiding me over these past few months, man, because when I came home from deployment, I wanted to get right back to podcasting. I wanted to get right back to the next speech, but I had just spent 7 months away from my family, man. And I felt like I needed to sit down and be still and get my family situated in our new home, get them used to having me back around before I got back into the mix of trying to go out here and motivate and inspire people, man. So that's one that's been guiding me. And I think that it should guide all of us. Before we go out here and try to be successful out in the world, we need to be successful in our own home.
yeah,
And the second one, I know you're going to love this one because we talk about this one. Proverbs 13 and 22. A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. And then the rest of it says, and the wealth of the sinner is laid up for the just. That's not the part I'm focusing on. I'm focusing on a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. And
yeah,
that's something that drives me, man. When it comes down to financial literacy, when it comes down to saving, investing for the kids, that scripture drives me, man. I'm talking about every single day when I'm tired, when I don't want to study, when I don't want to try to understand those charts. A good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. It
yeah,
really keeps me going, man.
yes. And I like to build on that, man. And like that's one thing that drives me. That scripture right there, man. And then also what my goal when it's all said and done, like I want to make sure my kids are straight, right?
Exactly.
And then once that happened, man, I want to, you know, start like a scholarship foundation, be able to bless a kid to
For
go
sure.
through school because um it's because college is hard, man. School is
Right.
hard.
Right.
Like there was times like I didn't eat. There was times,
Right.
undergrad, man, I slept on the air mattress.
Right.
Like you know what I mean?
Right. Right.
And you know, the whole walk-on situation, I couldn't really pursue that because I couldn't afford it.
I feel you.
I couldn't
I feel
afford
you.
it, man.
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, man, I think it's situations like that it drives us. It really gives us that motivation because this is something I haven't really talked about publicly. But even though I got a little unfocused in school, in high school, I still wanted to go to college. I wanted to go right away, man. But nobody could get a loan for me to go.
Yeah,
And I when I got unfocused, I didn't apply for any scholarships. So I wasn't in a position to go to college. And I remember when I asked my mom, could she get a loan for me? She couldn't do it because my older sister was already at UAB. And then, I asked one of my close cousins who was older than me, and she was like, I can't do it. And she broke down and cried, man. And I wanted to cry too, but I didn't. Because I felt like I had to be strong for her. But I couldn't go to college at that time, man, because there was no savings for me. There was no investments for me. And now I think about it, not to say my parents didn't do the best they could, but I don't want my kids to have to feel that pain, man.
Yeah.
If I bring them into this world, there is no reason why they should turn 18 and I don't have something to give them. And I'm not saying that my parents didn't do good. I'm
Yeah.
just saying we learn better and we do better. And so that's what it is for me, man. I want to be able to bless all of my children with some type of startup fund. And then the other thing is this: my son asked, Dad, when I get out of the house, if I need help with a down payment or, if I need a little extra money for rent, are you going to help me out? And I said, no. He said, why? I said, well, if I've been investing for you for 18 years and I've already got a custodial account set up for you and I'm teaching you financial literacy, you shouldn't have to call dad asking dad for money no more. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you better tell them to hop on Breakthrough Finance and get some of the option trades, man.
I
Get your
got
money
you. I
up.
got you. I got you. I'm definitely gonna do that, man. But hey, man, I just want to say thank you for this time and for this opportunity, man.
Yes,
It's,
sir.
it's
Thank you.
truly been amazing.
Thank you, man.
For
Likewise.
sure. Absolutely, man. Well, listen, for those out there watching us, man, I'm Martinez Shaver, and this is Paul Simon. This is Investing with Paul Simon. This is Breakthrough Finance. And we just want to say thank y'all, man. We hope y'all enjoyed this. And that's all I got to say, brother, if you want to close us out.
Yeah, man. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Hey, it was a pleasure to be here with my homie Martinez. And until the next time.